DIGIQUICKIE! I forgot I had this series. Well, it's kinda useful. By the way, I'm a little sick, so I'm gonna sound a little funny today. This video is to address one of the questions that I get a lot and has sort of festered in my mind and got me thinking about it. You see, I've answered a few times why I analyze My Little Pony. I answered it at the very beginning of the Thoroughly Analyzing panel at BronyCon, where I talked about how, mostly for me, it's fun. I also defended the idea of analyzing the show because people say, oh, it's a kid's show, and I'm like, yeah, bullshit. I've also talked about why MLP is my favorite show, because that is a huge part of why I bother to analyze it. It does happen to be my favorite show of all time. I would even say my favorite work of art of all time. Like, there's no book or movie or anything like that that I enjoy more than My Little Pony. I love this show more than anything. And that's a very good reason to be analyzing it. And if you want to know why I love it so much, there's the Observations on MLP Density video is probably the best explanation. But another question I get that I find rather interesting is when people ask me, why am I analyzing MLP instead of, like, Breaking Bad or The Walking Dead or some other big show that is seen as, like, intelligent or important or something that should be analyzed, as opposed to MLP? This is a question I've gotten a few times, even an accusation I've gotten a few times. People are like, fuck you for doing MLP instead of Breaking Bad or whatever. And there's a couple of reasons for that. But the first one is just that I'm not very into those kind of shows. And it's not that I don't think Breaking Bad is a great show. I'm sure it is. I've only seen a couple episodes of it, not in order. I just kind of watched a little bit while other people were watching. Doesn't really seem like my kind of show for a few reasons. One, it's extremely depressing, and I just don't tend to want to watch, like, super depressing shows. And another thing is that I tend to favor the narrative structure of something like MLP, where there's an overarching plot line and there's character development, but each individual episode has its own story, because it just means that there's more going on at any given time. Again, it's a matter of density. I like these uber dense shows a little bit more than I like shows that are more straightforward, like Breaking Bad, where in a show like Breaking Bad, it's more about the big twists and the build-ups, you know, where there might be like a lengthy amount of time building up to some big moment that's like, ooh, shit. Game of Thrones is a lot like this as well. A lot of people ask why I don't do Game of Thrones. I've seen a good 5 or 6 episodes at complete random across the entire show. I've even seen, like, the season 3 finale and stuff. And yeah, it's very much a show that's about, like, these slow build-ups to big moments with there's great characters, great memorable characters and stuff. But here's the thing. What this all really comes down to is that you don't need someone to analyze those shows, because they aren't difficult to grasp. And this is not me saying that My Little Pony is difficult to grasp at all. But what I am saying is that My Little Pony's intricacies are not obvious. Like, when you watch the show, you don't immediately think about some of the stuff that I talk about in my videos, you know, some stuff that I come up with after watching the episodes again and again. When you watch Breaking Bad or you watch Game of Thrones, you're expecting there to be the certain kind of depth and a certain kind of character development, and the show does exactly what you think it's gonna do. It's always it's not predictable, because that's against the point. It's great and it's dramatic, but everyone who watches the show kind of has the same experience of it, because you know what you're getting into, basically. With My Little Pony, there's this other side to it, where you could watch it completely ignorant of any depth to it, and then you could go back and suddenly find depth to it. And a lot of that just comes from the fact that My Little Pony's not super well written. I mean, it can have its moments where it really shines, but altogether, it's not clean. It's not really together. There's moments where you feel like they didn't plan ahead, you know, like the first season feels like it was planned without another season in mind, and then you slowly get more parts where, like, it starts to connect, and then there's different writers have different ideas about the characters, so you have shit like Ghostbusters, where everyone's out of character. You've got inconsistencies about what the elements of harmony can do across different episodes and stuff. It's a kind of a mess. But because it's kind of a mess, you have to stop and really dig into it. You have to figure out what might be there, as opposed to just knowing, because the show is super squeaky clean and it's super easy to watch. So in some ways, it's the weaknesses of My Little Pony that make it interesting to dissect. And another thing is, actually two things. One, there's probably someone already analyzing Breaking Bad and Game of Thrones out there. Like, those shows have huge communities around them. Go to Reddit. Go to the Breaking Bad subreddit or the Game of Thrones subreddit. You'll probably find fuckloads of people talking about it there, because those are people from that fandom. I'm not in that fandom, so asking me to analyze those shows is weird. I'm in the My Little Pony fandom. I analyze My Little Pony. It makes sense. And second of all, if you think that there is something deeper in the show to be explored, why don't you analyze it? Why don't you go out and make those points? This is actually a problem I have a lot, where people come to me, even in context of My Little Pony, and they want me to analyze something that they've already analyzed. And I'm like, you did it, or you could do it. You know better than I do. I didn't come up with it. So if you want to see these other shows analyzed, go analyze them. Watch them yourself. Dig deep. Make your own videos or your own text posts or whatever. I don't see why I have to do it. So anyway, yeah, that's basically why MLP as opposed to anything else. Thank you.